It's 2008 and the best day ever just arrived, the release of Super Smash Bros. Brawl after a bit of a delay here and there. You sit on your school chair, you look at the big fat clock on the wall, and every time the little clock hands stroke up and down the time on it, you get more and more excited. Suddenly the school bell goes ding dong bing bong and you run out to catch the earliest bus to get home and beg your mom to drive you around from store to store to find a copy of Brawl because pre-ordering wasn't really a thing when you were young. That's how most people experienced the day it released, I think. For me it was a little bit different because it released at the start of the summer holidays here in Germany, in my state, to cut the whole school stuff and started the part where I really had to beg my mom to drive me around because most of the stores were sold out till I went inside Medimax for my first and last time in my life, and was able to get a copy in there. But we gotta go back in time when Brawl didn't really exist yet, at least not to our knowledge. I had a subscription to the German GamePro magazine and every June was the month I looked forward to the most when it arrived in my mailbox because it was E3 time. But 2006 was like extra special. The 360 already released but both Sony and Nintendo wanted to give it their best to show why you should get their consoles instead. Let's just say that it didn't quite work for Sony that year.
It's Ridge Racer! Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
Nintendo's show was also okay. Wasn't the best but also not the worst. Wii Music may have sucked massive dicks, but seeing Miyamoto dictate around like this kinda went hard. I miss these kind of presentations sometimes, even if I don't. 50% of their runtime were sales, and sales stuff, instead of only games how it is now. For some reason, Nintendo did not show the Brawl trailer at the actual show, but behind closed doors to the press. Just how they announced Wii Fit Trainer randomly on the show floor in 2013, instead of in the actual trailer for the game they had at their show. You know, when Nintendo was still doing Nintendo things instead of doing the best possible thing. Even though Nintendo is still doing Nintendo things sometimes. Before even reading the magazine, I just whipped out the DVD, put it into the DVD player and watched the video about them walking around the floors of his Wii, gameplay videos and trailers, because watching feels better than reading at first. And obviously they had the trailer for Super Smash Bros. Brawl on there and I was blown away. Opening up the trailer with the iconic Brawl theme and thinking, wow, not the type of music I think of when I think about Smash, but it just kind of fits it. Nowadays Mario's overalls looking so realistic became a meme and all that, but to my young brain it was like holy shit, this is it, the next generation of Nintendo gaming, even though the Wii wasn't that much stronger than the GameCube, but still. Link getting their Twilight Princess glow up and Pikachu and Kirby kinda being themselves. And then you just enjoy the trailer because there's so much stuff happening. Like you sit there and think, what the hell, what is all of this? This makes you think like holy shit. Nintendogs showing up. What does that mean? Why are there why are there dogs? Are they a playable character? Mario is suddenly becoming evil and having a super duper evil looking attack. Kirby just cooking Mario while he's still alive. Meta Knight, the coolest Kirby character ever, joins the game. Holy moly, who the fuck is Pit? Suddenly one of the biggest boner moments I can remember of my young teenager years of Zero Suit Samus making my pants whip, and is that Wario fighting so hard that he just nuked the whole desert? Best trailer ever. But it wasn't even over. Even though I only played Twin Snakes at that point in my life, I heard the codec sound and was like, what? Snake? The Solid Snake? Snake alone made you think, what the fuck? How is he in Smash? He's not even a Nintendo character, and he maybe was like the most out there pick you could have picked to show that you opened the doors of Pandora. Nintendo letting third-party characters into Smash. The implications were huge, anyone could join. If you asked people what kind of non-Nintendo character they would want in Smash, most people would have just said other mascot characters like Crash, Sonic, those types, not Solid Snake, a guy that is normally in games for adults. Everything goes if he goes. Then it went a bit quiet, and that's just how it normally worked back in the day when most people didn't get the news daily from social media, YouTube, etc. You had to wait for the next issue of a magazine, or maybe you already used tons of gaming websites. I kinda did but also didn't. I check them sometimes, but I'm mostly logged on to just play Flash games, Neopets, Kral Online, Counter-Strike 1.6, a bit of Ragnarok Online, or to chat with friends. But eventually I also started using forums like Nintendo Fire, the GamePro forum, Forumla, but I also found a certain image board in early 2007 called 4chan, and I'm grateful for that. Nowadays you can kick that site into a trash can, but back then it was actually fun to use. If I never found it at that time, I probably would have never gotten this good with my English skills. Sure, you can still call them trash or whatever, and sometimes it's hard to understand me, but trust me, it's also hard to understand me in German. I just talk like an idiot. It made me play my games in English, reading English subs and watching anime, that kind of stuff, because I wanted to become super duper good at English to actually be able to communicate well so people wouldn't see me as a dirty ESL. I'm drifting off, but it's an important part of what made Brawl and the lead up to its release so special to me, because soon after I found all of those forums, the Smash Dojo started. The website where you got news about the game daily. Every single day you could check the site and see something new about the game, except for on the weekend. Everyone should not work on the weekend should be for fun. Sometimes it was just a little bit about an item and then also something lame like the banana peel. But then the next time it was the Dragoon that made you think best game ever. Seeing the new Pokemon that they're adding or the super duper new cool assist trophies since they were the new hot shit. And then there were also music tracks uploaded that made you think it's gonna have the best soundtrack ever. And it kinda is to a degree. Those were my favorites because the Brawl OST is just that good. The day the Ocarina of Time medley dropped, I did nothing else but listen to it all day. It became a daily ritual to check it as fast as possible whenever it updated and talking about it with people online. Everyone coming together to judge the update on if it was fine or boring or shit or super duper cool. It was just so special to me in a way that I never felt for any of the other games. The picture of the day and stuff like that never managed to really make me that hyped anymore. Here they just even dropped Sonic onto the dojo. You just opened the page and saw, yeah, Sonic is in the game. Then you check the forums and it was on fire everywhere. Nowadays Nintendo will proudly tell you, hey, take off some time for work in 2 days and watch this new trailer. Who could it be? Who's gonna join Smash? Then the fated day came and everything was set up to be the best weekend ever playing with my Wii clan online. The Nintendo All-Star Gamers. Till we tried playing it online and well, if we ever got to experience it on your launch days, then you know it was basically unplayable, even with a LAN connection. Normally only new MMO expansions had that much of a shitty launch when it comes to online issues, but a fighting game, nobody expected it to be that shit. Aside from that, it was a great game and eventually the online also worked a bit better. At least it gave you a bit of time to first do the single player stuff or enjoy it with your friends in real life if you had any. Regardless of what you thought about the actual game, it still was pretty much the most hyped game I can remember from my childhood. And I know there were a few others where the hype for them was insane during that time like Halo 3 and GTA 4, but for me Brawl was at the top of it. So maybe if you were more of an Xbox guy it was Halo 3 instead because you really wanted to finish that fight. Remember when midnight launches were still a thing for games? I sadly never went to one because my parents probably would have not allowed me to go, so when I eventually got old enough it kinda was already a relic of its times. So I'm a bit jealous of whoever got to experience one, regardless of what game it was for. Standing in line with other fans and talking about the game and maybe even making new friends to play it with. And sure, you can say Ultimate was an even bigger thing and even Smash 4 because those really released in the times of social media where everyone posted their video reactions and all that, but it just felt less special to me. I give you permission to call me a boomer for this part. People that now grow up with these kind of high quality trailers for every newcomer will say these were the golden times eventually too in 20 years. I said I won't talk about the actual game, but I have to include a tiny little rant about one of the most overblown complaints about the game. Tripping. If you never played competitive but complain about tripping, why? How many matches do you remember losing because you tripped? I know the number for myself, 0. And even if I lost a match against a friend because of it, what's so bad about that? Was I just born with a loser mindset that wouldn't care since it's a game between friends? Think about it in a real life way. How many times did you trip there? Probably a lot. Sometimes it could even end up in death if you work at a factory and accidentally fall into a chainsaw or something. Do you think you are to blame for tripping? No, you will blame the slippery road, or your shoes or anything else except you. And if you trip in Brawl, you will blame Brawl. That is the real loser mindset. A real man gets back up and wins anyways and doesn't complain, unless you fall into a seesaw. With that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and will have a good day, a good night or whatever fits your time zone. It's always nice to look into the past to feel young again. I'm not even that old yet, but still. But you have to make sure to not totally get lost there. It's fine to sometimes miss those times, but nostalgia can blind people too much. You know what the kids say nowadays, don't get lost in the sauce. Even though I think that's a really old saying since even Nietzsche said it once basically. Bye bye.